This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackrich. Egypt is preparing an area at the Gaza border which could accommodate Palestinians in case an Israeli offensive into Rafah prompts an exodus across the frontier, four forces said in what they described as a contingency move by Cairo. Egypt, which denied making any such preparations, has repeatedly raised the alarm over the possibility that Israel's devastating Gaza offensive could displace Palestinians into Sinai, something Cairo says would be completely unacceptable, echoing warnings from Arab states such as Jordan. The United States has repeatedly said it would oppose any displacement of Palestinians out of Gaza. Out of the sources said Egypt was optimistic talks to clinch a ceasefire can avoid any such scenario, but it's establishing the area at the border as a temporary and precautionary measure. Three security sources said Egypt had begun preparing a desert area with some basic facilities which could be used to shelter Palestinians, emphasizing this was a contingency step. Israel has said it will mount an offensive to take out Haman's last based on in Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians have sought sanctuary from its devastating Gaza offensive. Israel has said its army is drawing up a plan to evacuate civilians from Rafah to other parts of the Gaza Strip. But UN aid chief Martin Griffiths said on Thursday it was an illusion to think people in Gaza could evacuate to a safe place and warned of the possibility of Palestinians spilling into Israel if Israel launches a military operation in Rafah. He called the scenario a sort of Egyptian nightmare. Egypt has framed its opposition to the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza as part of wider Arab rejection of any repeat of the Nakba or catastrophe when some 700,000 Palestinians fled or were forced from their homes in the war surrounding Israel's creation in 1948. In a makeshift camp for people displaced by floods in Democratic Republic of Congo, father of three, Cyprem Seka, anxiously watched his baby nap on the floor of a crowded tent and wondered if it would ever be safe to return home. Torrential rain swelled the Congo River to its highest level in over 60 years in late December and forced around 500,000 people to flee the rising water. Like many others, Seka's family lost almost all their possessions in the rush to escape, with some areas still underwater. Around 2,400 people have been crammed onto this compound for weeks. Many have to sleep outside on the ground due to a lack of space in the shared tents. 16 of Congo's 26 provinces are grappling with the fallout from the floods, which killed at least 221 people, damaged tens of thousands of homes, and exposed already vulnerable communities to increased risks of malaria and typhoid. According to the Congolese authorities and medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières, the scale of the emergency has underscored the urgent need for improved flood management and response, particularly around the capital, said hydrologist Raphael Tishimanga at the University of Kinshasa. Congo had the second highest rate of tree cover loss in the world in 2022 after Brazil, according to Global Forest Watch. This exacerbates flood risk because of forest canopy and roots trap rainwater and lessened flow into river, said Tishimanga. More floods could threaten the 83 million people living near a major river in the Congo Basin, which stretches across Central Africa. Nike on Thursday said it will cut about 2% of its total workforce, or more than 1,600 jobs, as the sportswear giant looks to cut costs after flagging weaker profit this year. Nike's global peers Adidas, Puma, and JD Sports too have warned of weaker earnings this year as consumers cut back on non-essential spendings. In December, Nike had outlined a $2 billion savings plan over the next 3 years through steps including tightening the supply of some products, improving its supply chain, reducing management layers, and increasing the use of automation. The company had also announced that it would incur about $400 million to $450 million in employees' severance costs in the third quarter. Nike had approximately 83,700 employees as of May 31st, 2023, according to a company filing. The Wall Street Journal, which first reported, said the cuts were expected to start on Friday and a second phase would be completed by the end of the current quarter. The layoffs are not expected to impact employees in store and distribution centers or those in its innovation team, the report added. Indian farmers demanding higher prices for their crops said they had paused their protest march to New Delhi on Friday until their unions hold another round of talks with government ministers on Sunday. Agriculture Minister Arjun Munda, who met farmers' representative late on Thursday, along with Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and Deputy Interim Minister Nityanand Rai, told reporters the talks were positive, adding, "We believe we will all find a solution together peacefully." Thousands of farmers had embarked on the Delhi Chalo or Let's Go to Delhi march earlier this week to press the government to set a minimum price for their produce, but they were stopped by security forces about 200 kilometers, that is 125 miles away from the capital, triggering clashes. Union leaders said a 63-year-old farmer who was among those camped at the site died of a heart attack early on Friday. A state police officer said they had received information about a farmer's death and are looking into it. The protest had erupted a few months before India is due to hold national elections in which Prime Minister Narendra Modi is seeking a third term. Farmers are an influential voting bloc. The farmers remained camped on the border between Punjab and Haryana states on Friday. Security forces have used concrete and metal barricades as well as drones carrying tear gas canisters to stop them from advancing. The protest comes 2 years after Modi's government, following a similar protest movement, repealed some farm laws and promised to find ways to ensure support prices for all products. Bank of Japan is on track to end negative interest rates in coming months despite the economy's fall into recession, say sources familiar with its thinking, though weak domestic demand means they may seek more clues on wages growth before acting. Japan shocked analysts on Thursday when data showed gross domestic product unexpectedly contracting for 2 straight quarters, technical definition of a recession, and losing its place as the world's 3rd largest economy to Germany. While the GDP headlines were startling, the focus for Bank of Japan policymakers is on whether the bumper wages hike set for 2024 will be repeated next year, a condition the central bank believes is necessary for Japan to emerge from decades tepid household consumption. For that reason, this spring's annual wage negotiations that set play level for 2025 remain a more important economic indicator for the Bank of Japan than the 4th quarter GDP, which is backward looking. At the same time, the consumer sector weakness seen in the GDP figures means an end to negative rates is now more likely at the Bank of Japan's April meeting rather than its March gathering, giving the bank more time to give a read on the health of the economy. Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda, who took office last year, has been laying the groundwork to shift away from the radical monetary stimulus introduced by his predecessor Haruhiko Kuroda, which has been blamed for heavy financial market distortions. On Friday, Ueda stuck to the script that tweaks to various monetary easing measures, including negative rates, were still options despite the GDP data. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Friday.